Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We're joined live here by One Tree Yoga. Gabrielle, better known as Gabe, Hop, right? Alison Tigas here on our Zoomcast and our podcast, joining us live here from Omaha, Nebraska, onetreeyoga.com. It's worldwide, and the ladies are back here to talk today about their studio and, of course, all their offerings that they do offer. Does that make sense? The offerings that you offer. It does in a weird way.
We definitely offer them.
Thank you for going with that. Ladies, say hello to everyone. Would you mind telling us a little about yourself, about the studio, and what we have in store for us today?
Yeah, I'm Allison, like your introduction said, and Gabe and I co-own the studio together in Omaha, Nebraska. And we have a couple of locations in Omaha. We also have online classes and a YouTube channel. So we kind of got a lot of stuff going on.
Very much so. Go ahead.
I'm Gabe, and let's see what else to say. Allison and I have owned this business for about 4.5 years. Prior to that, we both managed, and we've been teaching and students of One Tree for a very long time. So we are fully committed to the One Tree Yoga project.
Good. Well, we're excited to have you both here today. Before we get started on today's topic, would you mind sharing how we can reach out to you guys? Tell us your website, phone number, social media pages, anything like that.
Sure. So yeah, like you said earlier, our website is onetreeyoga.com, O-N-E, Tree Yoga. And you can basically find us on all of the social media platforms under that name as well, One Tree Yoga, as well as YouTube. Did I forget anything, Gabe?
Let's see. We're on Facebook. It's One Tree Yoga Omaha, because there is another One Tree Yoga in Iowa. And we said the YouTube page. That's a good one. all sorts of videos available there.
All right, let's get started. I unfortunately don't have your notes for today's show yet. My apologies. So would you mind beginning? What did you guys want to share for today?
Sure. We were hoping we have a handful of styles, classes that we teach at our studio, and we were hoping to sort of go through each of them and kind of explain what each class or style means, because I think every studio, every yoga place kind of has a little bit different way they do things. So we were just sort of hoping to go through that.
Awesome. So let's begin. What did you have in mind for the first one?
So our first class we want to talk about is called Align and Flow. And this is the One Tree Yoga version of Vinyasa. So a Vinyasa practice is typically fast-paced. It oftentimes is taught as like a single movement connected to a single breath. And so that makes it go, depending on the length of your breath, that makes it go pretty quick. The One Tree Yoga version, as suggests, focuses on alignment as well as flow. So we just tend to kind of do things a little bit slower than most studios. It's not to say that it's not aerobic. It is definitely aerobic, but we slow things down, and we spend a little bit of time talking through the alignment of the poses. So rather than just, throwing out the pose name, we're going to tell you a little bit about how to do the actions in the pose to make it more accessible, to get more out of the pose. I can talk a little bit about the Vinyasa flow itself. So it was developed by Patabi Joyce. He was an Indian man, and it was developed for like 13-year-old boys who all lived together, and they needed a way for the boys to like get their wiggles out, right? So it's this quick process designed to calm your nervous system down.
Okay.
And so the whole practice is sort of based around this idea that, each time you take a breath in, you do a movement. Each time you breathe out, you do basically a counter movement to that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we do Align and Flow. We do like a warm up. Usually on the floor. We start on the floor. We do a little warm up, and then we do a period of sun salutations, which are those breath connected to movement actions. And then we do flows. So usually we have a goal in mind, like a peak pose. It's a big back bend, it's an arm balance, it's an inversion. And so the flows then are designed to get us prepared to do that bigger pose.
Beautiful. Anything else for Align and Flow? I know next is Hatha. Is that how I pronounce it?
Hatha.
That's how you
Yeah,
say
I
it.
think
Yeah.
I'm like, not Hatha, Hatha.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hatha. Yeah.
The only thing I'd add to Gabe's Align Flow is that I think that is probably one of the more popular styles around at least the United States. I think the Vinyasa flow is just what I think most people kind of gravitate towards at first, because there's a really big, like Gabe said, there's an aerobic component. And I think people, are there often for fitness reasons. And so, we respect and appreciate that. We like to just put our own twist on it. It's like, while you're here doing this movement, why don't you learn something? Yeah, so I'll talk about Hatha. How about that? I think last week I mentioned it quickly, but I'll sort of recap. So Hatha is kind of our signature style at One Tree, I would say. Gabe mentioned we tend to teach most of our classes very alignment based, and this is even more true for Hatha, I think. So Hatha is typically, it's not quite as quick moving as our flow class. It's a lot more like, do a pose. We might hold this for a while and really work the pose, teach the pose, stop, do another pose, work the pose, teach the pose, stop. So it moves slower, but in some ways it's actually harder because you're in poses longer and you're often very active and effortful in those poses. So in Hatha, we really focus on alignment. We really focus on teaching the pose. I always say Hatha is the class you go to when you want to learn how to do yoga or you want to brush up on your technique. So it's kind of one of those things we encourage everybody to practice Hatha all the time. We also use lots of props. Sometimes props are used as sort of ways to modify, and that is true. But props can also be a really great way to help people engage in a pose or really work in a pose. And sometimes it can make a pose harder. So we like to use props in our Hatha classes for all of those reasons, just to kind of break poses down in that way. And so, yeah, I think Hatha is really kind of the sort of big umbrella under which everything else falls.
Do you want to add anything to that?
I would say that when Alison and I teach,
we always have more to say.
I always have more to say. Yeah. When Alison and I teach Hatha, it's often the class that we will demonstrate poses. So we are often showing people in our bodies, like, this is what, the actions in the pose are. We're not necessarily trying to say, like, this is the perfect pose, here's how you do it. But like, here's the actions that you're going to do in the pose in order to make it, more accessible or more of the shape that you're looking for.
Got it. All right. And then I've heard of hot yoga. That seems to be a common one, right?
Yeah. So our studio actually started as a hot studio back in 2001. And that studio has been really kind of hot focused ever since. So hot yoga was developed by a he who shall not be named. There is a man who developed the system, and we have intentionally separated ourselves from him because he's not a great man. But the practice is really great, especially for beginners. So it's 105 degrees. It is designed to have 50% humidity so that like the second you walk in the door and get on your mat, you're starting to sweat. And it's the same 26 poses every time. And so there's a breathing exercise at the beginning. There's a fairly long standing series. And then you get down on the ground. You do like about a half an hour of poses on the ground. And then you do a breathing exercise at the end as well. So like I said, it's great for beginners because the heat it warms your muscles up. So it makes stretching feel more accessible. You can get further into poses than you would be able to do in a normal temperature room. It also, one of the things we really like about it is that it attracts a lot of men. So many men are intimidated by showing up to a yoga class, especially if they think it's gonna be full of a bunch of bendy ladies. And so hot yoga is just like, for whatever reason, guys are drawn to it. They know they're going to work hard. They know they're going to sweat a bunch. And so we really appreciate the diversity of having, many men in class as opposed to sometimes your token one or two guys.
Got it.
Yeah, I think also with a hot yoga, like Gabe was saying, it definitely, because it's very predictable. It's like, you know, which poses are coming when. And so what makes it great is that it's universal. Like, I could go take a hot yoga class in Italy and not understand a word they're saying, but I could follow along with the class because I know what poses are coming. And so I think people like that sort of notion of, I know what to expect. It attracts a certain type. I mean, hot yoga, 105 degrees is pretty intense. And so we definitely see people, like sometimes men or other people, drawn to it that maybe appreciate that intensity. It feels like a really challenging workout. You see a lot of athletes and people kind of drawn to it that way. So I think it's great in that aspect, that it sometimes attracts people that might, like Gabe said, might not otherwise come to a yoga class.
All right. So then we got the silent hot and restorative next.
Yeah. Silent hot is basically hot yoga, but silent,
Quiet.
meaning the teacher, quieter. Meaning the teacher like is usually practicing with the class and they just kind of lead them through. So it's good for people that have had some hot yoga under their belt. They kind of know what's going on. It's usually, our classes are early in the morning, our silent classes. So people can just, you know, they're kind of waking up, they can do their practice, but they don't have to hear all the things. So it's nice that way.
Right.
It's kind of a nice opportunity to just like, it's when you go to yoga class, you're expecting your teacher to talk and tell you what to do. And it's kind of nice when you know what's coming next because you've done enough hot classes, and you can just like really be in your breath and be in your practice. And it gives like a great opportunity for concentration in a new way. I also want to say, just like a little piece of trivia, is that Allison and I both started our yoga journeys as hot yogis. And so it really pulls people in to the practice. And some people, you know, they get drawn into hot yoga and they stay hot yogis for their entire yoga career, which Allison and I veered. But some people are, you know, drawn to doing the same 26 poses every day. It's amazing.
Forever and ever.
Forever.
All right. What's next on the list, girls?
Restorative yoga is next, I believe.
Yep.
So restorative is a super cool practice that is designed to chill you out. So it is super heavy on props. So when we teach restorative, typically we'll have a bolster, which is like a big, long, thick pillow. We'll have maybe 4 blankets, really heavy weighted blankets, 2 blocks, a long strap. Sometimes you use a chair as well. And so each pose takes kind of a while to set up, but each pose incorporates tons of props so that you can get like really, really comfortable. So most of the poses are laying on the ground or supported on props or seated. So it's low to the ground. And you get into these poses with all of these props, and you can stay there because you're supported and ideally you're comfortable. You can stay there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes half an hour. And it's really just a great opportunity to like relax completely. It's so rare that we get the opportunity to relax really at all. To relax completely for an hour or an hour and a half is just super good to reset. Tap into the parasympathetic nervous function, and you feel like $1 million at the end of that type of practice.
Awesome. And what about for those elderly out there? I feel like I'm the elderly portion, 45 now, getting there. Yeah.
No.
Anyone's welcome at seniors.
Yeah. So we talked about this last week too, a little bit. We have a couple classes on our schedule dedicated just for seniors, but like Gabe said, really anyone can come. It's a good sort of beginners paced type class. So I think we sort of a long time ago recognized that seniors were intimidated to come to regular classes. They move a little bit faster. Oftentimes with the older population, they've had a lot of injuries and surgeries and hip replacements, knee replacements, all sorts of things. We sort of realized that, there really is like a need for a class just for them. And so we actually have a couple ladies on our staff that are sort of in that age range and have been through some of the surgeries and injuries. So they're really well-versed in how to, slow down the practice, offer more support. We use a lot of chairs, we use the wall, and just kind of make a class that makes sense for them in a way to just to just get them feeling more mobile. I mean, often when they come to us, when a senior comes to us, they maybe haven't done a lot of physical activity, at least in a while. And so this is just a really great way to get them moving and feeling good. And it helps with their balance, which, as we know, as we age, that gets trickier. And so it's a great population that, needs yoga just as much as anyone.
Got it.
Another aspect about seniors that I think is great, and this is true of all of our classes, but we really want to cultivate a sense of community.
Mhm.
And when you are in a class with, people from your age range, and you're interested in the same thing, I think that automatically creates a sense of, community, and they want to be there together, and they're really encouraging to each other. So it's really magical in that way.
Got it. All right. Thank you. So again, yoga is for everyone, beginners, no matter what age we are as well. And even if we got to go a little slow, how's the low pep fit in? What's slow and low?
Slow and
Low
low.
and low. So this is a new class on our schedule. It's taught by our teacher, Jamie Duker, and she also teaches seniors. So she's really skilled in the art of teaching people with injuries, teaching people with, a little bit lower mobility. So this class, Slow and Low, is kind of an offshoot of the practice of somatics, which is a practice developed by Thomas Hanna, and it's like loosening, releasing movements, and so it's almost done entirely on the floor. So you lay down, you make good contact with the floor, and then you start to like slide and glide. So like a movement could be something like slide one shoulder blade up by your ear and slide the other shoulder blade down away from your ear. Right. And so you do that sort of thing for 3 minutes, and then you like pause and check in. Jamie did an extra bit of training with one of our teachers, our teacher T.S. Little, based out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he's developed kind of a whole system for how to kind of roll around on the floor and then like pay attention and breathe around it. And so he's made it this really special, accessible yoga practice that like literally anyone can do. And it's another practice where you feel great at the end because you've loosened up all your joints and you had the opportunity to just chill.
Yeah, Gabe mentioned this is a new class on our schedule, and I think it's probably worth pointing out that we have definitely seen a shift in what people coming to the studio are wanting. I mean, we still, people want their hot and they want their fast moving flow, but we're seeing more and more people are really like wanting and appreciating this whole slow down thing. And I don't know if it's like COVID or what, or, just sort of that time kind of made us appreciate and realize that that's like really good for us. And so we're, thrilled by this change. It's kind of what we've been preaching for years. But I think it's like our job, we're just giving lots of opportunities for people to just relax, and to really kind of be in tune with their body and quiet down from all the noise,
Which we all don't do too often.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Truth. Yeah.
We're all for more paying attention and slowing down and just being in the moment.
Yeah. All right. My internet is frozen. I can't pull up your notes. I'm trying to refresh. So what's the next one?
That's okay. I can remember. We have to talk about yin.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Also, yeah. Yep. So yin is probably personally one of my favorites to practice and teach these days. It is not that different in many ways from restorative yoga, what Gabe talked about, but it's a little bit more different in that there's maybe less focus on being super supported in props and a little more focused on just kind of hanging out, and might be a little bit less comfortable than restorative. So yin really looks at the connective tissue. So rather than just stretching muscles or strengthening muscles, we're looking at like the fascia, connective tissue that's everywhere in our body. And connective tissue responds to long. So we stay there for like 3, 4, 5 minutes, slow, low to the ground, hold. So we like really get low, we stay low, and we just like get in a pose. Maybe don't even feel that comfortable. You don't want to be in pain, of course, but you kind of just stay there and you hang out. So it really helps lengthen and work with the fascia. So it's great in that way. And then the added bonus is that it, mentally sort of helps us learn to just like sit still. Even when the going gets tough, we can sort of sit with this and relax into this, and we're going to be all right. It doesn't last forever. All of those good lessons that I think we can apply off the mat.
Beautiful.
I always like to say that yin is like the perfect precursor to meditation, because you're not, I think part of what's hard about meditation is that you're just sort of sitting still and you're fidgety and this isn't that comfortable. In a yin pose, you're there for 5 minutes, but you're in a pose, you've got sensory things to experience, but you're also like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
What are my options but to pay attention and be in the breath and be present?
Yeah, it's like the on-ramp, right, to meditation.
Yeah.
Our meditation teacher always says that. It's the on-ramp. It's like kind of the way to, meditation freaks you out, like yin's maybe a good in-between.
All right, good. And then you got the yin and yang.
Yin and yang, yeah, or
right,
yin and yang. You can say it either way. Yeah. No, you're good. You can say it either way. So yin yang is like the best of both worlds. So yin suggests like slow and cool and low to the ground, and yang suggests fire and movement. And so in our yin yang classes, we do about 45 minutes of flow. So that's that vinyasa style where we connect breath to movement. And then we end with half an hour or so of yin poses. So you get a little bit of a workout in, a little exercise. That's what you're looking for. And then a little bit of chill, meditative practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Again, just to remind everyone, One Tree Yoga, we're here live on the line, again, at the podcast, on the Zoomcast. If someone does want to reach out to you, would you mind sharing again the website information?
Sure. It's onetreeyoga.com, ONE, treeyoga.com. There's also, I should mention, on our website, email to reach out and contact us. Happy to give that out because I, check the email often. It's info, INFO, at onetreeyoga.com. So feel free to email us anytime, shoot questions. If you have questions specifically, we're happy to answer any of that for anyone.
And Vinyasa, is that the last one on our list?
Yeah. Vinyasa. It's sort of another hybrid class, and it's newer to our schedule. Like I said, I think, we noticed people have been sort of more craving it, but it is again sort of a mix of a little bit of flow with some yin, but it's just a slower flow. So it could be called slow flow if you wanted to. So we're never doing anything too active, but you still get the movement with breath. You might have some longer yin holds. Gabe and I both teach that class on the schedule, and it's also one of our favorites. It's just a good way to get some sort of fluidity and movement, but not have to try so hard all the time, like to kind of be able to relax and sort of be in poses for a while. It's great.
Good. All right. And we still got 3 minutes left in the show. So we have a few more minutes to chat here, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
What would you say you need in order to practice yoga in the studio? And what about at home?
Yeah, so yoga in the studio, you're going to want to bring a mat. We do rent mats if you forget or you don't have a mat, but it is nice to just have your own mat, and they're totally readily accessible. You can get a mat at Target these days. We also sell mats too if you want to buy your mat at One Tree Yoga. But you need a mat. You want comfortable clothing that's not too loose. If it's too loose, then it tends to get in your way. So sort of a tight fitting but comfortable, easy to move in clothes. And then you want to bring your water. If you're coming to hot yoga, you definitely need to bring your water. And you need to bring a towel because your mat is going to get super sweaty and slippery, and so you want something down to
Absorb
that. Absorb,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yoga at home obviously is a little different. You'll sort of have to carve out your own space. I mean, ideally, it's a quieter space. I mean, Gabe and I both have little kids at home, so I understand that's not really like always in the cards. We see people on Zoom, practice in their kitchen if that's the best spot. So wherever you can really kind of carve out space is great. Obviously yoga mat. And then we're, because you've heard our explanations, we use props in like every class we teach. So if you are going to sort of commit to practicing at home regularly, we recommend getting some yoga props. Some are better than others. You can find them anywhere, but of course, we always have opinions on quality props, the ones that we use in the studio. So you can always reach out to us if, you have questions on specific props, but like blocks, a blanket, a strap, just a few things, you'll be pretty set to roll. But it's just really helpful to have that stuff if you're gonna do it at home often.
Got it. All right. And to go to the Zoom classes, how do we do that?
Yep. So from our website, you can go to the schedule tab on our website and sort of see, we've kind of got a section for like in person and Zoom, and you can see, the class will be labeled either online or not. And so you can sign up if you're wanting to do online, sign up for the online classes, and then you'll be emailed a link, like a Zoom link with a password, and you just use that, log on at the time. You can also sign up for the class, and if you can't make it live, we will email you the recording. So that's kind of a nice thing too, so that if you're like still at work or something, you can do the class later or whenever it's convenient. So,
and for beginners, do you have those programs listed, that series on the website as well?
Yeah. So our beginner series, it's a five class course. It is available. You get all 5 of the videos as well as notes on the sequences, and that will come right to your inbox, and you can do it at your own pacing.
Great. And just tell me a little bit about some of the training videos in particular on One Tree Yoga's website.
Yeah, so Gabe and I co-lead a teacher training program every year in person. But what we did with these videos is we sort of developed some of the teaching methodology that we teach, like how to sequence a class, how to verbally cue people in poses. And so we sort of made these really great videos and have them on our website for purchase for people that maybe already are teachers and feel like they could brush up on some of those skills, or maybe they feel like they didn't, get to develop that as much in their training program. It can be kind of used for that. So we, of course, highly recommend them, but we think they're pretty great.
Awesome. And your videos are also on YouTube as well, correct?
We have classes on YouTube at varying lengths. So you can literally get on our YouTube channel and do a 10-minute meditation, a 20-minute practice at your desk, or an full hour class. So we kind of have something for everyone, varying topics and, things that we focus on our YouTube. And of course that's free, which is a nice bonus.
All right. So onetreeyoga.com. How else can we reach you?
We're on Instagram at One Tree Yoga. We're on Facebook at One Tree Yoga Omaha. And we're on YouTube at One Tree Yoga.
Great. Thank you, ladies, so much. By the way, how old are your kids?
So mine are almost 8 and almost 5.
Okay. And yours?
Mine are almost 3 and almost 5. Allison and I actually gave birth 5 days apart.
Oh my goodness.
4 months before we took over the business.
Yeah.
God bless y'all. No, I have an 8-year-old and another one will be 6 in 2 days. I get it. I don't have a dining room anymore. That's a toy room. We got
everything's a toy room.
If you can get space, feel at home doing yoga in the kitchen. Like you said, it just related to me because I can't go in the living room. There's no such thing anymore.
I know.
All right. Well, have a great day. Great talking to you more, ladies. Gabe, Alison, thank you. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.